Okay, guys, welcome to the Wise Skies podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany, and I've got Jen with us. So if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening to the podcast, this is where we're going to talk about 9-Star Key for the month of October. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
And we've done this before, but I feel like I understand what we're talking about now. So I think this is going to be a juicier 9-Star podcast. And we also just got done recording her class. So she offered a master class for the Wise Skies membership. So if you're part of the membership, you'll get this amazing look at 9-Star Key. And I think it just really helped take me to a new understanding of it. So today on the podcast, what we're going to talk about is more basic, more foundational, what 9-Star Key is and how you can learn your numbers and how you can access the magic of the numbers. And so the first question really, Jen, I have for you, you talked a little bit about where the 9, where the star, and where the key come from. So could you tell us what is 9-Star Key?
Yeah. So 9-Star Key, it's about 5,000 years old. And it actually came from this really cool emperor in China, and this benevolent, kind, super awesome leader who saw elemental forces and understood kind of how these energies move. And so he was really the catalyst for creating this thing. So the 9 aspect of it has been around for ages. And if you've done any kind of feng shui, or if you were a child of the 80s and heard about it ad nauseum, then you have actually already been introduced to 9-Star a little bit. In feng shui, the idea is that you rearrange your house to where certain areas of your house represent certain energies. Like there is a fireplace, there is a wood place, there is a place for metal, there's a place for water. Like, it's an arrangement of space so that the energetic flow is optimal. You don't put stairs in certain places, et cetera, et cetera. 9-Star uses the same 9 energies. We just use them over time. So we use them over years and over months in 9-month cycles and 9-year cycles. So that's where the 9 comes from. The star is the actual interaction between the elements themselves. So we're talking about water, earth, wood or tree, metal, and fire. And it looks like a star, and it's the 5 different elements, the 5 different points of the star. And it points to how each one's either sustains each other or can quash or kind of suppress, right? So water can suppress fire, but fire can feed earth because it burns and it creates this beautiful earth, and we can plant stuff in it. So that's the star element. And the key is the energy part of it, right? So like ki or chi, when we talk about that, we're talking about moving energy. So 9-Star Key is literally the movement of the 9 energies, and so that's where the name comes from.
And to me, it's like, boom, it made so much sense. So thank you for sharing that part. Now, one thing that's kind of tricky about, I think, 9-Star, if you've been listening to Wise Skies for any length of time, you have probably heard the astrology and the numerology forecast. And you know that our astrology is based on Western astrology, but there's also Vedic astrology. You know that we use the Placidus house system, but there's also the whole house system. And when we're talking about 9-Star numbers in terms of, it's very, very different than the numerology forecast that I have traditionally woven into the Wise Skies reports. And so I just wanted to kind of get your take on, I guess, how I experience it. It's like the numbers definitely mean different things in 9-Star than they do in basic numerology. And I kind of look at it like it all makes sense. It depends on your intention, how you're using it, how you're working with it. Kind of like the Western and Vedic astrology. Can you speak to how it's maybe completely different than numerology, or is there some overlap? Or I think that some people are going to be interested in your take on that.
Yeah. So, numerology, like there's an overriding year kind of for everybody, right? Or, there's certain aspects to numbers that have particular meanings. And in 9 star, I think some of them actually do overlap in the sense of, like, I don't know what 9 is in numerology, but in 9 star, it's fire. Like it is, passion, it's putting everything out there. 2 is the divine mother, it's nurturing, it's grounding, so there might be some meanings that are similar. Where 9 star is different is that the numbers are tied to elemental energies as well as direction and seasonality. So 7 is, tied to beauty. It's tied to, autumn. It's tied to the harvest. It's tied to a direction. So in that sense, it's different. The other way that I look at 9 star is like where traditional astrology is the movement of the heavenly bodies, 9 star is the movement of earth elemental energies.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool because you can use them together. So I'm a Gemini, I'm an air sign. I, live in my intellect a lot. And my 9 star as like a 3 trees are very expressive and they, are very creative. And I know that a lot of my expression comes through intellectual pursuits, so you can actually marry the two systems together and really understand facets of yourself, kind of in a different layer. It's just like adding another lens that you can gain some perspective of.
That's totally how I see it. So you were speaking my love language. It's like, yes, let's learn more. Let's get let's, work with this amazing ancient tool as a layer of all the other things that we've been using in our self-development path. So to start you out with 9 star, what you're going to do is you're going to find your numbers first. The first thing that you need to have any clue where you fit in the 9 star map is to figure out your numbers. So Jen wrote an amazing article. We'll link to it below. It's at wiseskiescollective.com, but she gives kind of a higher view of what 9 star is and how you can start to work with these numbers. And then you can find your numbers. All you need is your birthday. You don't have to do any tricky math. And you can follow the chart and figure out what your 3 9-star key numbers are. So there's 3 numbers that you're looking for. And I want you to tell us, to me, it's kind of like your birth chart, if you will. It's your signature numbers. And will you talk about each of them and what each one means?
Yeah. So the 3 numbers all have different kind of, elemental aspects that make up and comprise who you are. The first number is the number that your soul picked as the vehicle for this lifetime. So it's kind of the overriding, personality that you carry. Okay. And so when we talk about elemental shifts, like in the years or in the months, we use your first number as that reference because it is your overriding personality and it is like the outward expression of who you are. Your second number, your middle number, is the number that you spent in childhood. It's also your heart space. And it also tends to be where you go when you get wounded, especially because we often get wounded in childhood, right? We have trauma that we can sometimes encounter in childhood. And so sometimes those wounds really, really point to that middle number. And understanding where that is and how you get wounded and also where you were as a child is really a big part too in your numbers because it's an integral part of who you are. Your third number is like your soul's highest calling. Some people think of it as the North Star, right? And your third number is really a vehicle for growth for the other 2 numbers as well. And so it's kind of like, I like to think of it as like you have to master your numbers in order to really fulfill the completion of that third number. So it's not like a skipping the line kind of thing, like, oh, cool, I know what my third number is, so I'm just going to do that thing. And it's like, no, not really, right? The way that we grow as a soul is we learn and we have these experiences. And so to really capitalize on that third number, you're actually using it all the time. It is your vehicle for growth. So, but to really, integrate and like, come into this kind of really interesting sense of wholeness, you want to work with the strengths and the challenges of each of your numbers. And in doing that, that's when you really get the full benefit of what 9-star has to offer you, is working within those strengths and those challenges.
Okay, beautiful. So each of us has 3 numbers. That's kind of your template, the first thing that you really want to start to understand. And beyond that, you could use those. You could look at those numbers as a tool for how you are in relationship with other people. But you could also look at like the cycles of time, which is the class that you just offered. And so knowing what year you're in and what month you're in through the 9-star lens, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this is kind of where 9-star shines, is that we move through seasons throughout the year. And so elemental energy also moves throughout the year as well. Like we move in and out of things. There's always something that's moving, right? And so each month, the energy or the key shifts. Okay. So for example, I'm a 3. I'm in a 2-year, which is earth. So I'm a 3 tree and I'm having an earthy year. And in October, it shifts for me into a 2-month as well. So I'm really familiar with that energy. I know how to utilize it. I know what to expect. And when you look at it through that lens, it's like, okay, well, earth energy for me, or 2 energy, really is, it's nurturing energy. It's very grounding. It kind of nicely offsets my like fast moving 3 urgent tree energy. And so this next month of October, I'm really using it to go even to a little bit deeper into nurturing and to kind of, like that divine mother of others, but also of myself, like really shifting my focus into how can I use that energy to nourish myself while I'm supporting other people as well in the work that I do. So for anyone, when you know what your year is, you know what the overriding energy is, and you know how to capitalize on it. My teacher actually will plan out his whole entire cycle. So he'll be like, you know what, I'm in a 1 year in this many years. So when I get to my 1 year, I know that I'm going to take time for meditation, for space, for being really, really inward. Like he took time off of like his work and everything to use the 1 year to really look inward. Like he planned for it. So you can start planning for these energies because you know they're coming. Like you definitely know they're coming. They're consistent. You can feel the shift, like when you start paying attention to it. Like for me, I'm like, okay, when am I going to feel the shift? And I usually feel it a few days before the key actually shifts. Like I feel it like 4 or 5 days before. I'm like, oh, I'm already in that energy. Like I'm already there. I can already feel it. And then I can start using it, and so it prompts us to rest. Some of that energy prompts us to work. Some of the energy prompts us to celebrate, and some of it is to to express. So once you know what they do, you can start really crafting how you want to utilize the energy to help you and to support you for your highest good.
Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful picture of how you can work. I like the word prompt. It's like, yes, it prompts you. So you can it's like an invitation, like you talk about sometimes. So Jen taught me that we're all born into a 5-year. So when you start, you're not starting at 0, you're starting in a 5-year, and the year changes in February based on the Chinese calendar. Is that which calendar?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so it shifts in February, but you all start out at 5. So it's not like numerology, where currently we're all in a 5-year. And in 2022, we'll be in a 6-year in numerology. It's not like that. You are born, and we were all born in a 5-year, which is a year of karma, which I want you to touch on in a second. But then you're going to graduate. Your year is going to change in February. So that's kind of, I guess, one of the different elements of how you're going to be working. So you're in a different year than I am, which makes sense. I'm in a different season of life than my daughter is, right? So the year is changes for you and it's unique to you, but it's going to be the same as other people your age, right? And then,
Right.
And then your month is going to change. When does the month change? So your unique month, when does that flip over?
So there's actually like charts that will tell you, and the chart that's in the article will actually tell you when the key shifts for each month.
Oh,
And it's
right.
usually somewhere between like the 4th to the 8th, depending on the month. Excuse me. But yeah, the interesting thing about your year is that we all are born into a 5 year. So when you arrive on this planet, okay, like I'm a newly hatched human, you're in a 5 year, which is the year of karma. And the year of karma to me is so sweet because it's like, here's how I chosen to incarnate on this earth. And now my work begins of how I'm going to utilize what I've learned in past lives and past, energetic expressions, and I'm going to move and I'm going to grow. So you really are like that's your karma. Like you're born into the year of karma. And that's what 5 year energy is like for us. And so, we all experience that. Now, everybody born in my year has the same first number. Like we all have a 3. Everyone born, in your year, you, because you're a 2, all those people have 2s. So you guys, every single 2 across the world is in a 1 year right now. Next year, you guys are going to be in a 2 year as 2s. And that's going to be absolutely fascinating because you're going to be in the year of your first house or your first number. For me, all the 3s across the world, we're all going to be in the year of 3. All the 4s are going to be in the year 4. So everyone's returning to their first house number next year, which to me is like a golden opportunity because you're really like, this is like, it's like double personality, right? Like I am a 3 and I'm going to be in a 3. All the strengths of that number have the potential to like do some amazing work, right? So planning for that and like understanding it is really cool.
Right. And like, this is the perfect time to prepare for that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like that every 9 years then?
Yeah. So, we go through the 9 month cycles happen continuously,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's some years where you might have 2 3 months or 2 1 months, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the 9 year cycles, yeah, they're just 9 year cycles. So it's like pregnancy, right? You go through, like in the tarot, like 10 is like, kind of more of the completion, right? Or the world, which is 21, is like the completion of a cycle. But in 9 star 9, the whole cycle actually revolves around 9. So, that might be a little bit different because we have a base 10 number system as well. So we think of 10 as like, oh, once I count to 10, I've completed a cycle. But in 9 star, it's 9, which if you think about pregnancy is 9 months, like the period of gestation. That's really how it's based. So every 9 months, you're shifting every single month and you go through 9 continuously and then every year. And then there actually is a number of the world. There is a
What?
world number.
Okay.
Yes.
What's
So
the
there
world
is,
number?
this year is a 6.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the year of work, of discernment, of refinement, of pruning away the inessential, of really putting the elbow grease in, of doing the due diligence, of, helping clear the way for future stuff as well. Like basically the year of karma, I think will be, because the years work backwards for the earth, I think is what it is. So I think next year is actually our year of karma, but I'll have to double check that because I'm not as quite familiar with the world number. But it's an intriguing idea, right? Like as a world, here's where we are. But individually, which is where the energies are really fun and interesting, and with relationships, then once you know your birth date, you just go forward. So that clock goes forward every year. Yeah.
Okay, just like a tree growing an extra ring. Right?
Yeah,
Growing
totally.
forward. All right, so guys, just to recap, you're going to find your numbers through Jen's article. I wanted to let y'all know that she's teaching a class on October 13th that goes through the foundations of each of the numbers. And so you can read her article, you can get our freebie, but she's also teaching a special class. And so I just thought maybe you could you could share a few words about the class.
Yeah. So for the class, definitely look at the article before you come to class so you have your numbers. And then we can like kind of hit the ground running on it so we can get as much juiciness in there for you as possible. But what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about your numbers, how they work together, and also about the trends that you're seeing in terms of how your energy is moving and ways to kind of utilize those energetic shifts to help you out. So it's going to be kind of a basics class, but we can also dive deep into some things. And the beautiful thing about when you collaborate in 9-star is you get to hear how other people experience their numbers. So I'm a 317. I have a friend who was born 2 days before me who is also a 317. And so when we talk to each other, there's things that I pay attention to about him that I wouldn't normally pay attention to about other people, because I'm like, how is he utilizing his numbers, right? How are they working for him? Emotionally, where are his challenges right now? Do I resonate with that? And so when you experience how other people's numbers are working together, and like even when someone has a number that you happen to have, but it's in a different position, you get to hear how that affects them. And you get to like go, oh, you know what? I've noticed that in myself as well. And I was wondering, like, what is with that thing? What is with this sense of like, meh, and why am I experiencing that right now? So we'll talk about, how that kind of plays together and how you can really use, these interactions to benefit you.
I love that. Like, I don't know if some of you guys took Jen's Dream Lab workshop. So her style is much more collaborative. So you're going to get specific information about you. And then we're all going to learn from that as she's reading for you and helping you understand what your patterns are. So we'll kind of be able to go deep with some people and just get to experience this different lens of 9-star. So that's the workshop. It's on October 13th. You can register at wiseskiescollective.com. It's an investment of $20. And as long as you register, even if you can't make it live, it's at 6 Central Time, we will send you the replay. So you get the most advantage if you're live because you'll get to play with your numbers, but no problem. You'll still learn something from it for sure as she's going through and teaching kind of the foundations, this basic piece. This first like really foundational landing spot for understanding the different numbers, the directions, the seasons, all of the things that come into play with each one. So what else was I going to ask you? Let's see, you talked about next year being in the year of our own number.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful and special. I like how you talk about leaning into the number shifts as invitations, and just everything about it. There's so much to learn, but I don't want this information to overwhelm you guys. Again, there's no math. You're just going to look up your numbers, and then you're going to start to just be able to access some new layers of information about yourself. Can you give us some examples of any like relationship numbers if you're looking at two people? Like, how do you do that? How do they play out? Like, can you give us some goodies?
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at your number. So you're 225.
Okay.
So you have like a lot of earth, like 225. You've got 2 is an earth number and 5 is an earth number. So relationships for you, it's like, what's going to nourish, you? Well, fire nourishes earth, so, if you happen to be in a relationship with someone who has a 9 in their number, or you meet someone who has a 9 in their number, you could feel a sense of nourishment from that person, whereas, let's say they might have some metal in their number, your earth can kind of nourish, their metal as well. So interestingly enough, like when we look at kind of relationships, we really look at those elemental energies, and how can you nourish yourself? Like I have a 3 tree in my first position. I have a 1 in my middle position. Well, 1, can nourish a tree, right? Because water helps a tree grow. And metal can actually nourish water because the minerals in metal end up in water and help, kind of sustain those ecosystems, right? So I can be self-nourishing, but I also have a husband who's a 4 tree, and I'm a 3, so he's older tree. So he kind of can temper some of my more fast moving energy with his more adaptable, like mature, wise energy that he has as a 4 tree, which is interesting, and as a water, I can nourish his tree, right? He has a 2 in his middle number, which is the divine, mother, the divine feminine. So as a nurturer, so he can actually support me in that way. And we both have a 7 in our last number. So we both have a similar like calling from a soul perspective. I've known people who have, like, I know one person who has a divine masculine in his number, and then his partner has a divine feminine in her number. And so they kind of like utilize that to help nourish each other in that way because they're aware of it. If you have a 5 in your number, that you have, that you have the potential to be a catalyst, and then having a partner who recognizes how you contribute as a catalyst, can be helpful. So it's really like informational. And then we also can like look at how we go when we're hurt. Like I know that, for me, like when I feel like, like a fear of the unknown is like a big thing for ones. Like the fear of the unknown is like kind of like our shadow or something, like our one of our challenges. And so for me, I know that about myself, and my husband's really great at contextualizing some of that stuff for me, where I'm just like, all these things and these what ifs and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, as a 4, he's really easily able to find alternatives and to look at things from a different perspective and to adapt and to bend. So he gives me perspective on those like fear of the unknown things. So it's beautiful in relationships, like really.
Totally. Can you look at like groups of people with 9-star? Can you look at like workplace settings or families of 5, or can you look at like those dynamics, or are you usually just doing like one-to-one relationship stuff?
Oh, you can absolutely look at those dynamics. In fact, what was it? Oh, yes. So there's some practitioners who, like people who do 9-star, will actually know what people's 9-star is and not tell them. Like counselors or stuff who do other work, like they'll actually get the birth date information and know what their clients like energies are like, so that when they're working with them, like in couples and groups, they'll be like, I wonder, I get the sense that, that you feel underappreciated and that people don't see your contributions. The person will be like, oh my gosh, how could you have possibly known that? And he's like, well, because that person's a 5, so they're using the knowledge of 9-star to recognize when people are exhibiting certain signs of struggle, or when people are capitalizing on strengths, and how that helps in group dynamics. So that's kind of a cool way I've heard of somebody using that. But yeah, you can use it in workplaces when you're building teams, so that, hey, this person is like, you give them this information and they run. This person really, because they're an appreciator of beauty and their first number is a 7, let's have them look at user interface. Ooh. Like how is the user experience? Like how can the user feel a sense of pleasure of using it in this way? Like what would be appealing to their eye, right? So you can start, really like bending and flowing with people's characteristics in that way. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I have so many like ideas going through my head when you're talking about that. Like, thank you for sharing your knowledge. I'm not going to keep you much longer. I do want to let people know that Jen's doing a special mini session rate of $44 in October. And so that's an incredible offer where you can go get a mini session, get some wise counsel on your numbers, what they mean for you, how maybe you interact with some other people in your life. So you'll see if you're registering or if you're signing up to have a session with her, it says in the form, are there a couple people you want to check out how you interact with? You'll need their birthday. You don't need their birth time. You just need their birthday. And of course, it should be somebody that you have permission to check in with, your energy as you're the one being read for. But this would be great for like a partner or a child or a parent or a coworker or something like that is kind of what would be most beneficial to you. And so those sessions are happening. There's no code that is needed. You can just go to the book a reading page at wiseskiescollective.com. And then normally she also offers those base sessions, but she also offers like a deeper dive. And I want you to talk a little bit about what people can get and when they're doing the deeper dive, when you're looking at the shifts of time with them and the seasons.
Yeah. So once you have your numbers, you kind of established how the numbers are working together. The deeper dive really takes that information and launches it into practical space. So when we're talking about, what's coming up over the next several months, okay, how do we plan accordingly based on that energy and knowing how you work within your numbers, knowing what year you're in to capitalize on the energy of how that's coming? What are the lenses and perspectives that will help you as you're moving along? And sometimes people will actually terminate projects during certain times, or will start projects during certain times because they're aware it's like they're riding the wave, right? If I know as a surfer that there's a big wave coming and I've paddled out and I'm ready to go on my surfboard, I'm using the physics and the momentum of the water to propel me. That's really how 9-star helps us. It gives us these opportunities to use like these cyclical energies to move and propel and to also to reflect and to rest. And so in those deeper dives, we really look at like the infrastructure of here's where you are, here's where you're headed. And for some people, they like to look at like, years out, like, oh, I'm coming into this year, next year. Well, then the year after that is that. So here's what I'm cultivating now. Here's what I anticipate this looking like over the next 2 years. And how can I capitalize on that energy, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a really, depends on what a person really wants to do, but there's an opportunity there to really hone in on all these energetical perspectives and movements. And
energetical, is that a word? If it's not, I'm making it one. Okay. Look at energetical perspective. I love it. Yeah. And I'm me, like sign me up for that. Like that is what you're speaking my love language. I want to look kind of long-term and see what are the shifts that are happening. You told me that I'm in a 1 year and I'll be going into a 2 year. And I envision us being able to have a session where I can say, here's kind of what's going on with my life. Here's some challenges. Here's some goals. Could we strategize over a 3 or 4 month period and help me kind of optimize some of this energy where maybe I need to slow down, or maybe I need to put the gas on, or just helps with some of the blind spots, I think,
Yeah.
We don't want to predict everything, guys. Like we want to live in the mystery. We want to enjoy co-creating with like the higher power of your own choosing. But working with these systems, to me feels very primal, and it feels like a blessing. And it feels special that we get to work with somebody that has dedicated so much discipline and learning in this area. Jen, is there anything else you would want to kind of tell somebody that's brand new to 9-star key? Is there anything that you like to zhuzh out there?
Well, I think one of the things that's really cool about this is that the fundamental aspects of what makes 9-star are things that are actually very intuitive and close and near and dear to us. We live on the earth and we go through cycles. We understand elemental energies. We understand that water can be rain and sleet and snow and, drizzle and, waterfall, like all those things can be in water. And so what's cool about this is that it actually hasn't changed in 5,000 years. The tenets of it have not changed. we've elaborated on them. We've gotten more like nuance on them, but there hasn't been like someone coming in and saying, hey, you know what, this is no longer valid. We're going to switch this other thing. Like these things, like what you're talking about, this primal aspect is what I love about it, because it's already ingrained in us and has been ingrained in us for thousands of years. Like these are the energies we're surrounded by all the time. These are the cycles, you know, going through winter and spring and summer. This is, you know, part of what it is to be on Earth. And that's part of what I love about it.
Oh, that makes me tear up. I'm like, yes. I love it. Well, thank you so much. And for you guys watching or listening out there, again, you can get your numbers through the article, which we'll post in the links. It's at wiseguyscollective.com. You can go to the blog and search 9-Star Key and find it. And I just want to know what all your numbers are. So if you want to comment, or if you want to get in the group and let us know, then I'm super curious. So who's out there, you know, who's out there hanging out with us? But thank you so much, Jen. And this has been so informative and eye-opening. And I really am excited about your classes and your offers. And I just, heart to heart, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you.